Crazy Rickets here once again, bringing some necromancy for you. And this time, I thought that I'd share with you some of my old school Yu-Gi-Oh cards I have saved from when I was a kid. I have this little binder here, and I thought maybe you'd like to see some of these really old nostalgic cards that I still have saved. And there's not too many here, obviously, because it's just a small binder. But I do have two more giant binders if this turns out to be something you guys want to see. Now, most of the cards here are either going to be from around the time of Go format, like 2005, 2006, all the way up to 2015, but you'll see there's a good smattering of different cards. Basically, I put almost every one of my favorite cards in here, except for the ones that I used to make some decks that I currently have made. Let me just jump right into this. Obviously, this is a really old binder. I actually won this at a local tournament at a local library for getting first place. So, it's pretty cool. I know there's going to be some glare, and I'm sorry about that, but hopefully you guys will be able to mostly see the cards. And right here you can already see that Destiny Hero Plasma, or Blue D, as he's called in Japan. One of the cards I saved alongside the Rope of Life, which unfortunately is not a very good card, but it is one of my favorites. Having to sacrifice your whole hand for one monster is a lot, but I still like it, and I used it in my deck as a kid. And just so you know, my deck when I was a kid had over 100 cards. And those of you that are new to the game, or maybe didn't play too much around then, you were allowed to have as many cards in your deck as you wanted. So, my deck was legal, but it also was very bad. Another cards that I have here is a Victory Dragon. It's a Shonen Jump promo card. And it was never really good in the United States because your opponents are allowed to concede before they lose. So you never actually get its condition off unless the opponent just didn't know how to play the game properly. And of course, there's Karibo, one of the most iconic cards in the game. This is my favorite art of Karibo, actually, and the shiniest version of it that I own. Trying to... There we go. Some more cards here. And again, sorry about the glare, but right here we have the one and only Light and Darkness Dragon, which is one of Jazz's cards that he used in the manga, not in the anime. And next to it we have the Cyber Barrier Dragon, which is one of the worst cards in the game because you have to sacrifice a monster of higher attack, and it barely does anything because its effect, I believe, only works while it's in attack mode. Yeah, but it has 2800 defense. And of course we have Magic Cylinder, which is one of my favorite trap cards of all time. And one of Yugi's iconic cards as well. And a McDonald's promo card, I believe, which is the White Horn Dragon. actually really loved this card as a kid, and I still love it. It lets you banish spell cards to boost itself up when it's summoned. And it can get really high attack, but that's about all it does. But still, I always thought it was really cool. And I also have Black Tyranno. It's always been a pretty terrible card, even in Go format times, but it's still one of my favorite cards. Just looks so freaking cool. The annoying part about it is that its effect is, well, not negated, but its effect doesn't work if your opponent even has a face-down spell or trap card on the field, which makes its already niche purpose like so much worse. And of course, one of my favorite monsters too is Big Shield Gardna. That 2600 defense I just thought was so amazing as a kid, and it's actually a pretty meta card in older formats as well. Covering Fire was my very first ultimate rare card. And that's why I have it here. It was also an extreme disappointment. I tried to play it in my giant 100 card deck, but unfortunately, didn't really ever work out. And here's UFO Roid, another ultimate rare. I got this many years ago on eBay. The person that was selling it said that there was a chance to win a Cyber Dragon Ultimate, or Cyber Dragon, rather, if you bought this, and I didn't get it. So don't fall for scams. Don't fall for lotteries. You're just wasting your money. Just buy the things you want, the things you need. XYZ Dragon Cannon, one of my favorite fusions of all time. I've got here the Z Metal Tank and Y-Head Dragon here. XYZ, of course, was used by both Kaiba and Jazz. And those are actually two of my favorite characters, but my favorite character, by the way, is Merrick. I can't believe I actually said that because it's not Merrick, it's Bakura, and I feel really dumb on camera saying the wrong name. But I also have, of course, you can see the Summoner Muck, which was really good when it came out. This card was, on the other hand, pretty bad, but I really like the cool art. Rescue Rabbit is one of the cards that I have. I actually played a few different Dino decks, including Dino Rabbit, a few different Rabbit decks, including Dino Rabbit, but also I played Rabbit Dragons with ninjas as well. That was one of my favorite decks. In fact, I'd say one of my top 3 decks of all time in terms of enjoyment of playing. Rampart Blaster here. A good old first edition, oh yeah. And my Exchange of the Spirit, which I guess they changed the effect for recently, but this is my original card that I had many years ago. And here are my God cards. I got some of these recently from the quarter century packs, but like this one, yeah, this one was the quarter century, and I believe this one too. But these are some old ones that I have. I don't think they're worth any money, but either way, I don't collect cards for money. I never have, and I never will. I just collect them because I think they're cool, or because I want to play with them. And I've got Yamada Dragon, which is my favorite of the spirits, and of course was used by Noah in the anime, Armed Dragon level 7. The Armed Dragons are some of my favorite monsters. Again, basically all the cards in here are some of my favorite cards of all time. Not the favorites, but some of them. Red Eyes Black Dragon. I always liked this art of the Red Eyes Black Dragon a lot. And a Blasting Fuse. I thought this card was so busted as a kid, and I really like this rarity. I'm sorry for the weird angles. I have a weird camera. We have Transcendental Wings, Nitro Unit, Alantiro Dark Neo Sue as a kid was one of my favorite Neos monsters. My favorite right now would have to be Magma Neos, I believe, is its name. But this was one of my favorites. Also, Grand Neos, I would think. That's the one with Grand Mole. He has covered core. Got my Mage Power, which put in a lot of work when I was a kid. Again, this was in my original 100 card deck. Sound Swordsman. That's another one of my favorite level monsters. Bubble Man. And System Down. You needed this card back in the day because machines were just so good. You really needed something to be able to take care of them. I have my Sphinxes that I got with the promo all the way back in the day. Rechef, who was my second favorite of the rituals. My favorite was Mask Beast. Five-headed dragon. The awesome fusion that you saw used by the Big Five, I believe. Dark Magician Girl. One of my favorite female monsters, but my favorite, by the way, is Injection Fairy Lily. She's not in here because I actually have her in a deck. And the Sage's Stone, which you use with the Dark Magician Girl to summon Dark Magician. They use this card in the anime. And I see some newer cards here. I've got the Herald of Orange Light. Of course, Wing Karibo. Again, I love all the old Karibos. And I love Garibe, but not like the super over-designed new ones so much. But generally, Karibo's a pretty cool design. Ancient Gear Golem. I really loved playing Ancient Gears back in the day when they first started getting the support, and I had like Ancient Gear Engineer, Magical Hats, Rottweiler, Psychic Overload. I really loved Psychics as well. I mostly played them around the time when we got Serene Psychic Witch. Miraculous Descent is a really cool rarity of Malevolent Catastrophe. I loved playing Malevolent Catastrophe. Night Suseni. Royal Firestorm cards. I loved Volcanics. That's why it's in here. Spell Canceller I tried to make work so many times. Total Defense Shogun, who I wish just had 50 less attacks so you could summon him with Tomato. Command Knight. Ancient Lamp. And Cost Down, which my friend used, and actually he gave me this one, I believe. But he used it in his deck, and He used to play it all the time, but obviously it's not actually that great. You're going down 2 cards just to summon one dude. Of course, there's Cyber Dragon. Everyone knows that card. Kill for the Lightning, one of my favorite tributes. Berserk Dragon. Catapult Turtle. Catapult Turtle, I just really loved in the anime. The way that it destroyed the flotation ring. Fiendish Engine. I think it's Omega or I don't remember. I'm sorry. I don't really know my letters. Necroshade. I always tried to play Necroshade in any Elemental Hero deck. I didn't like to play just the pure beatdown versions. I think I can't actually read it because of this ankle, but Ventagion, the Dark Dragon Lord. I liked this too. My friend used it against me a lot, and this is actually his copy he gave. This is his copy he gave to me. Sabril Tannen. Here are my wicked gods. Dreadroot was my favorite, and I played it a lot. The other two I don't really like so much, to be honest. They look kinda cool, but I didn't like to play them. This was one of my favorite of the synchro monsters. Even though it has no effect, I still thought it was really cool. I made it a lot back in the day. Of course, there's Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon. Beast of Talwar. Again, this was my friend's card, but I really loved the Beast of Talwar. Six Samurai United. I actually don't know why this is in here because I hated Six Samurai as a kid. Everyone was just spamming it. Unity, Fiend Mega Cyber. My friend played this in middle school, and I just thought it was the best card ever whenever he would. Gandora, the Dragon of Destruction. Gaia, the Dragon Champion. Another one of my favorite fusions, one of the originals. Reinforcer of the Army. Stratos, I didn't have it as a little kid, but eventually I did get it, and I was very happy. Beast King Barbaros. I actually did play quite a few skill drain decks with this guy. Of course, Dark Magic Curtain. Perfect Machine King. Metalmorph. Magician's Valkyria. And Leo Dragon Daedalus. I won a locals with a water deck back in the day. I actually had 2 Umi and 1 Umi Ruka because I didn't own 3. I had 2 Legendary Ocean and 1 Umi Ruka because I didn't own any more of the Umi cards. Here's Kuraz, who at the time wasn't that great, but in retrospect was actually a pretty decent card. Mobius. And Zoborg, of course. People used to tell me that Zoborg, like on the forums and stuff, back when people actually talked on forums, they told me that Zoborg was the worst monarch for some reason. And, of course, there's the Skull Archfiend of Lightning. It was called Lightning Skull. And which is the effect version of the Summon Skull, and I really loved it. One of my absolute favorites of all time, Doomcaliber Knight. As well as Gores, which I had it, so I played it, but to be honest, I didn't like what it did to the games that were involved with it. Sanctuary in the Sky and Force Raider. I believe this is a tin Force Raider. And here are some more of my god cards. As you can see, this obelisk looks a little weird. If it'll focus. That obelisk looks a little weird. It's because that is an obelisk, again, I got off of eBay. And there was also a raw and a slifer that came with it. And I gave the raw and slifer to my two best friends when I moved away. But I kept the obelisk. And because obelisk was my favorite. And it looks weird because they said it was real, but it was obviously fake. So again, don't get scammed. And I have here, of course, Exodia the Forbidden One. I actually, when I had all 5 pieces eventually as a kid. And I went to a locals with an Exodia deck, and I lost horribly because it was a really bad deck. But when I got a little bit older, I played Hope for Exodia, which I think there's even an old video of on my channel, and I like that deck a lot better. Of course, you don't get to see what's between the legs here thanks to the Spellbinding Circle and Mirror Wall. I loved playing this back in the day. These are the last cards: Mist Valley, Apex Avian. I didn't really hate it, but Mist Valley Falcon actually is one of my favorite cards of all time. Luster Dragon, my favorite level 4 dragon. Chain Whooped Warwolf. I put it in here because it's so iconic, and also I really loved Beast Warriors. And also, I've got Rampaging Rhinos, which is not a good card, even though it has an ultimate rare. But I used to play it because I played Ratbox, and it was decent enough in that deck. And that, friends, is the entirety of my collection. The entirety of this collection. I have 2 bigger binders. So let me know what you guys think. And I also wanted to tell you, Happy April Fools.